The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the host/guest and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any of BXR entities and those they represent.
I would wait until the show about to start fiddling. How's everybody doing? It's me, your host, Nate. Can y'all hear me? Everybody can hear me? Okay.
I can hear you fine.
So we're back after after Marnie's brief hiatus. He was sunbathing nude in the sun in the DR. Was it the DR?
That's the best way to bathe.
You went to the DR, right, Marnie?
Yeah, that's where I was.
Now the question is, did you get done on both sides?
He did. He flip-flopped.
What stays in the DR? What happens in the DR stays in.
They got you on OnlyFans, Marnie. You ain't know?
My face is blurred. You all right?
Did you get your good massage down?
I did. I got a massage on Monday.
Yes.
Was it a happy ending? Because they be giving happy endings in the Caribbean.
Happy when I paid her, so yeah.
So what you saying was that you was basted generously. It was a generous basing.
Generous. But we have an interesting show today. Bleu has shown up. He got his bamboo door knockers on. And we have another special guest, a blast from the Be Exposed Radio's past. One of the alumni of Cocktail Social, Miss Karen Gilmore, is joining us today also.
Hi.
And we'll be talking about her organization, a number of things coming up around the city and throughout the city. It is Free Fall, so go on to the Free Fall Baltimore website and go pick you out some free dates. It's a lot of free events, all types of art, educational events. Some are family friendly, some are not. And you can definitely get a couple free dates every day of the month. For the month of October, and I think it goes into November as well. So go on that website, get some great shows. I've already picked out a couple shows that I'm gonna get some of my dates some culture. Some of them gonna be lacking a little culture. So I'm gonna bring some culture their way on the free. I say I got the entertainment and you get the meal. That's my deal for the month. But also, if you haven't already checked it out, today was official press release for the You Thought I Was Him project, a project that we've been working on for like 10 years now. It just feel like we've been doing this for a long time. But we officially have dropped the press release, and that'll be out, and I'll be putting it on all of our social media pages after this show. So definitely get your ticket. It opens up November the 11th, opening night. We have assembled a nice group of gentlemen, really talented, hardworking young men, and you're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna clutch your pearls, you're gonna lose your breath at moments. All down at the Arena Playhouse at 801 McCullough Street. So definitely get your tickets. Go to the Arena Players website and get your tickets, and I'll be posting that again on all our social media. But we have some interesting topics today. I'm not a quitter, but I think I quit last Friday. And it's been a very interesting week so far. A lot of stress-free living, waking up nice and easy, birds chirping and such. And then we have Bleu. I'm sure Bleu got some announcements. So if we can bring Bleu on real quick, I know he has quite a few announcements. And I think if y'all missed the Funktopia, what?
I was waiting to say what announcement, other than the fact that I'm expecting. That's the only announcement that I have, is that I'm with child. Yes.
As always.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting. But during our brief break from the Artist Exchange, we got to see Bleu full out and raw and stilettos and the good Funktopia project series. Where were we at this time in Funktopia? What I forgot the name of your lounge.
We were at, it was Starlove.
Got his lines already.
No, honey. It was Starlove.
Starlove.
Yes, that's what the name was. And you was at Blue Shakers. That's what I was at.
Shakers Lounge.
Yes.
And it was very interesting. We got to hear some phenomenal singing. Stephanie, tell me Stephanie's last name again.
What is it?
Williams.
Stephanie Williams, phenomenal job. She tore it down as the android who got woke. Miss Christian Harris, Rachel, Miss Michelle Weeks, all of them. And what's the other? I'm missing one young lady, two young ladies. Mazel.
What it? Mazel, Christy Mazel.
And it was the other young lady that was singing along with her.
Oh my goodness, I wanna. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it right now.
She's a boom worker, I believe. And then this calabash of hip hop artists that just took the scene and took the space. It was really one of my favorite ones out of the series, actually.
Well, thank you.
Well, it wasn't you. It was everybody else. But like this was really interesting. This was at the new Voxel space. Jonathan Gilmore and his squad, his posse, really had Christian displays as one of the biggest performers that is coming through there. They've had maybe like one or two shows since they opened up over the pandemic, but I was thoroughly impressed. And you all, Jonathan, y'all did y'all thing. We had Navasha come out and share a little bit of love. It was just, I just want to know, can I get on the payroll? Because if you paying all these people, you got to run for one move.
First, who said we was paying anything? There you go, just assume. This is an art liberation front. This is we freely give out talent.
Next time, maybe next time.
You said you were doing community service.
This story was kind of wrapped around Bleu was the spotlight this time around. So how was it? You've been gracing the stages of Baltimore in the past year.
It was fun. The story, I love all of the stories, but this was my favorite. This was definitely my favorite. It had nothing to do with me, but it had everything to do with the actual story itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I enjoyed performing.
It was a nice story. I like that.
I enjoyed performing. I enjoyed putting on a heel, and some makeup and some lashes. You know that on KK. I love to put on the lashes.
No, I wasn't able to make the show.
Oh,
it was the same night.
I was so worried because they had Bleu, big, tall booty up on this table and high heel platform shoes, and I just knew that was it. I thought
were they the patent leather ones?
Yes.
The 5-inch.
I thought that was it. I thought it was it. He was tiptoeing on top of that table, but I just thought one wrong shimmy.
Oh no, he's a pro.
I ran, I danced, I strutted.
I was comfortable with you on the ground. When you were on the floor, I was good. It was when they put you up on that platform. I thought This is the day.
Bleu takes a tumble.
And that's cement, baby. That's cement down there. That's not no wood or no carpet. That's
but
it
was definitely a phenomenal show. It was definitely, the music was good, the energy was good on both days. And the first day was you could see the shock on everyone's faces. But the second day, that was a do loop for real. That was a party.
It was.
And I had a good time.
I should have came on the second day, but I was working. That's the hard part about being an artist with a lot of artist friends. Everything kind of overlaps, but I made sure to get in there on the opening night of it. But it's a lot of great art going on in the city. Thanks to our mayor and a number of people who have been fighting for years for the arts, there's finally an open door where we're all getting funding and the opportunity for funding, and not just to the same group of people as they used to be, but we're all getting a chance. And I believe Funktopia was largely due in part to a lot of grants and a lot of sponsorship that typically was not afforded to many of us. So I'm loving the city that we're in now, and get it while it's hot, because that pendulum will swing back the other way. And hopefully we're still in a space where we're prospering because of this time, but they definitely have opened a lot of doors since the pandemic. And even right before the pandemic, a lot of funding has been opening up. But just go jump right into it. I'm gonna introduce Miss Karen. She's on here to promote her new organization. Well, it's not so new, but it's official. Official. She's officially launching it now.
Yeah, it's still in its building phases. First thing, I am nurturing it. I am excited and afraid at the same time. It is a good afraid to be. The Auntie's Guild. The Auntie's Guild, basically, our mission is to provide strong Black women resources, respite, and relief through relationship. And you probably wonder why I did the air quotes, and it's because strong Black woman is a label that is often given to a certain type of woman in the Black community. Don't realize is that it is a label, and even though it is like one of those labels that is revered, like, oh girl, you so strong, oh sis, you're a strong Black woman, there has actually been research done that discovers that they call it the schema of the strong Black woman, where it actually leads to mental health issues. Black women, leading to like overeating.
Trying to live up to that title.
Not only that, but trying to live up to that title. So you tend to go within. You don't reach out when you need help. And people often, you on like Facebook and stuff, check on your strong friends. And the first time I saw that, I actually had to laugh out loud, like, for what? When they reach out to the strong friend, you ask them, how you doing, girl? You know what you're going to get? I'm fine.
Yeah.
When really they dying for real.
Breaking apart.
Falling apart.
I just went to a Tracy Jiggets has started this program called Breathe, Stretch, Reflect. And it's basically her first one that she did was she was giving thanks and praise to a lot of the mamas that have surrounded her during her time of struggle recently. And Mama Cheryl said, there's nothing wrong with calling yourself strong, because even strong people need to be recharged.
Right.
They need, to lick their wounds sometimes, and strong people aren't without struggle. Right. And I never thought about it that way, because I know both men and women, Black men and women, we are seen to be supernatural creatures that, can do anything, can withstand anything. And we try our hardest to live up to that, I think. And it hurts us because we don't ever take that time to be vulnerable and feel things and understand that we are in pain, or we are going through a struggle. But I think that's a great and phenomenal mission. I have to say once again, thank you, because because it's a family kind of grown organization, and Christmas I believe we were in the pandemic. Was we still in the pandemic?
It was
You
2021.
supported one of my friends and her family at a moment where they had a fire.
Yep.
Her brother passed away right after that. So she was going through a lot of just stuff, being a single parent, trying to get 4 children through private school, really doing it on her back, being that superwoman. And you and your family really came through. And it wasn't even about the stuff, but it was the fact that somebody was paying attention to her. Yeah. And after you left, she's not a vulnerable person outwardly, but she really absorbed that. Yeah. And I know we didn't have a lot of time to sit and chat, but I thank you and she thanks you for doing such a phenomenal, thankless thing. Like, she brought all these toys, and it was overwhelming to me to watch that. Like, so I thank you again. And I know this organization is being done from the heart, because you don't have to do stuff like that.
Yeah, if I really can, I would like to tell you, like, the way that it came about was because of that. I am a single mother. My baby is 23 now, but at the time I was a single mother living in Cherry Hill, and I was going to a church, and there's a lady in the church who she was a really kind and loving and sincere and genuine woman. Her name was Uther Steele. And one day she was the only person who I would allow to say my name the way she said it. She said, "Kurt, meet me at my car in the parking lot." And I'm like, okay, I didn't know what was going on. And so I met her at her car, and when she lifted her trunk, she had groceries. And she knew how prideful I was. She was like, "This is for Corey, my son." She knew that the only way that I would accept those groceries was if she said it was for my son. What she didn't know was how bad I needed those groceries. I wasn't going to ask nobody. I wasn't going to ask nobody for help. Those groceries were in that trunk for me that Sunday. And what she did affected me, and I carried it. That lady died in 2021. And I carried it. And this has been my love letter to her, as far as the giving aspect of it, the way that I want to help support other strong Black women is my love letter to my mother and to my aunt, in that aunties do what mommies don't do. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, you got your mom and you can probably talk to your mom, but it's something different about the way an auntie will grab you up and talk to you. They'll chastise you, but they'll teach you in the way that they chastise you. So when you get together with your aunties, your sister friends, your grandmas, all the strong women that you know, there's a way that we come together at a table where you can talk and you can be eating and having conversation, but you'll get exactly what you need out of that one session. And that's what the Auntie's Guild is. When we come together for our little meal, and our little drink, and our little gab session, you can walk away with anything from the name of a good gynecologist to a babysitter to a prayer that will carry you from this month to the next time we meet again. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that's what some people need. You need an opportunity to just take that label off, take the weight of that label off, and just be a woman for once. Because even I always make the joke, even superheroes got a gang of people behind them that they can turn to when they need help.
And it's pride, and hearing you tell that testimony, like it reminds me of it was a proverb, and my mother used to say this to me all the time, because I keep stuff inside a lot. And I think it was when pride comes, then comes disgrace. With humility comes wisdom. So if you open yourself up to what you think will humiliate you, it will actually be the test. And it will actually give you everything that you need, but you just gotta open yourself up.
You gotta be willing to open.
There's nothing like a friend coming by, asking you out to dinner, and you ain't got nothing to eat or no money to pay for. And my life has been a series of those individuals and those types of blessings, because it's at the least moment. But some of us that are so prideful, you gotta break that down and understand why you are, and get through it, because it's going to block every blessing that's supposed to come your way.
I think that is historically for Black people, that is our act of defiance, especially for people here in the United States. During slavery, that was a way of us saying, that was the, fuck you. We're not going to let you see us crying. We're not going to let you see us broken. We're not going to let you see us. And especially for women who have, they've had to bear the brunt of the family because the Black man has been so broken, for so long. And, that was by design, and so the reality, what comes with that is, what I can bear I'm gonna bear this load on our backs. And even though my feet may be bleeding and, I'm aching, I'm going to continue on. And it's detrimental, as you said. It's detrimental emotionally. It's detrimental psychologically. And it manifests itself in the physical form. So you realize that you do have some emotional concerns or some psychological concerns. It's in your body. Now you have the disease or dis-ease, and it's like, you don't realize these are the things that has manifested over time. It's generational. So a lot of what we're seeing these days is not just because of, a single parent household. No, this has been going on for years and years and years, decades and decades and decades. And so it's important that, agencies like this, that they begin and that they receive support. I'm really I'm absolutely proud of the fact that you and your family have decided, family and friends have decided to do something, because we've been, even in this, like I said, there are so many people that are dependent upon social agencies that are burdened to the point where they are no longer helping. They're doing more harm than good, and so these agencies that were supposed to be, the way that it was designed and the way that it was worded, and it would appear, is that they were supposed to help. But what we found is that they're doing as much, if not more, harm to these individuals that they're supposed to be helping. And or lack of helping.
And that's what's it now. Recently, a lot of people have found themselves cut off or not even able to get it, the people who really need the support.
Well, even with my story, like I said, I'm the reason why I went down the road professionally that I went down was because when I sought help, I was treated with such disregard, and that's a message that I can only imagine a young mother or a mother period, a woman period, seeking some assistance and being told that you don't look like anything's wrong with you. Get a job. You don't look like you're hungry. Go to a soup kitchen. And only to go to those soup kitchens and being told, or those churches and being told that because you're not a member, we can't assist you. You don't come to our church. We don't know you. Or to go to a homeless shelter and be told that in order for you to spend the night here, you have to give me some money. Well, where am I going to get that from? So now you're out here and you're doing things strange for some change so that you can rest your head someplace. These are some of the narratives of the women that you come across, these young girls that you think are out here and they're doing things for $20 and $40. It's because they're out here struggling and trying to survive. So having spaces,
and don't get it wrong, it's not just people who are financially unable. This is even for the professional lady who's got it all together. She's got it all together on paper, but emotionally, it's a whole mess. Like I know the paper that I keep referencing, it's actually a journal from, can't get it right, The Psychology of Women Quarterly. And it talks about one of the outcomes of the schema of strong Black women is this thing called maladaptive perfectionism, where Yeah, Jack, it's real. Where you have to, basically, you always got to have it all together, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You basically are a dressed mess. It looks good on the outside, but it's a whole mess. And it's so that you can put on this presentation that I got it all together. I got it all together. I can't tell my girlfriends that my life is a wreck or that I'm depressed, because they know me as the one that has it all together. So I can't fall apart. I can't go to her. Her marriage is a mess. She's coming to me for support. She's coming to me for advice. So now that my situation is jacked up, right, I'm always the shoulder. I'm always the shoulder. So now that I need, who's going to pour into me? You don't really, some of these ladies don't really have that network, like the religious, they don't have the church, or they don't believe in psychology, they don't have access to mental health care. So who do they turn to? So they're suffering in silence, a lot of them. So
go ahead.
So when you have a created friend group or a network, or if you grow into a sister circle or a tribe, as we're calling it, you begin to find that resource, even if you're coming into the space. If, when we have like social events, like a biddies brunch or whatever, when you come into their space and you're just able to sit in a room and see, one, you can be in a room full of women and they're not tearing each other apart. That it doesn't look like the Real Housewives of Park Heights. You know what I mean? Jesus. That you can be in a room and everybody is straightening each other's crown. You know what I mean? That this is what real sisterhood looks like. Some women don't know what it's like to have a sister. Some women don't know that you can be in a room with other women and we make each other shine instead of tearing each other. That is not a competition. That is really all love. I had a young lady who came to one of our events, who before she left, she was like, this is such a pleasure. I've never been in a room with this many women and felt like I belonged before. So
it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. That's why I don't watch a lot of TV anymore, because that's all I was seeing. And even not to take it out the attention off of your topic, but now those same programs that we saw that was tearing the women's image down and putting seeds of hate and distrust, and they've created those same type of platforms for men now.
Oh yeah, no, you're still on topic. You're still on topic. There are categories. They have categorized Black women. You have the strong Black woman. You have the Jezebel image. You have the Mammy image, and you have the Sapphire. So the Mammy is the one who caters to everybody. Her life ain't right unless everybody else is right in the room. Then you have the Jezebel, who is, and the Mammy is like looked down upon the most. And this is according to this article. The Jezebel, nobody really looks down on the Jezebel because that's a whole other thing. Black women's sexuality, women of color sexuality. She's either empowered. She's either empowered, or her sexuality is a means to an end. Like, hey, that's Antoine down the hall. He gonna help me get my rent money, and I'm just gonna give him a little bit. It ain't all that serious. It is what it is.
Then womanhood has become her power.
Right.
Yeah.
And her sexuality is her own. Then you have the Sapphire. The Sapphire is the image that is currently being pushed out into mainstream media. That's this lady who's snatching her dignity out the air, as Ms. Kim Coles would say. That's the lady who is not in touch with her emotions enough to recognize that I'm not really angry, I'm embarrassed. The one who has to yell and that young lady. That's the Sapphire image that we're getting all the way around. Unfortunately, that's what's being fed to our babies. That's what's being fed to other cultures. That is the image that is being portrayed about women as a whole, Black women as a whole. And that's not all of us, but that's the broad brush that we're being painted with. And then you have the strong Black woman who is the revered. She is the top tier of Black women, to the point where you have women of other cultures going, I'm a strong Black woman. It's highly revered, but it's kind of like, it's sickening. It creates a sickness in us. Not to make it like a victimization, but if we can't get it together to a healthy place where we can, I guess, find a work-life balance, It can make us really ill. We need to find balance within ourselves. From 4 years old, we are taught to put everybody else ahead of ourselves.
Pre-K.
Yeah, put everybody else ahead of ourselves. Don't nobody have time for your tears. You can cry in the car or the shower, but you cannot cry in this situation because stuff got to get done.
So,
I think
go ahead, Bleu. Go ahead, Bleu.
And it's really interesting that you say, when you say strong, because I think that, again, that defiance, you know, they kind of make defiance as synonymous with strength.
Right.
And the reality is it's not. And that a lot of the false narrative of what strength is or what it's supposed to look like is something that is being perpetuated. And so I feel like, you know, and just hearing what you're saying is like, you're not supposed to, it's a sign of weakness if you cry. It's a sign of weakness if you fail, you know. In reality, that's not the case. It's a sign that when you admit that you need some assistance, that's actually a sign of strength. If you learn from your failures, that's actually a sign of strength. If you're able to, you know what I mean? So if you're able to ask for help or disseminate jobs, like, look, can you do this? Because I know this is something that you're good at doing, but I know that I may struggle with that. That's actually a sign of strength. And so it's like when we really start to dissect these schemas that you said earlier, then we're able to really go back in and say, hold on, let's reteach some of the stuff that we've been taught.
Right, because resilience and strength is one thing. Resilience, yes, resilience is something to be applauded. But like you said, when you look at weakness and the display of emotion, the display of emotion as a weakness, as opposed to a display of humanity, that's a problem.
Right.
And that's how I can speak for my own self. I've looked at emotion, the display of emotion as a sign of weakness and vulnerability.
What is scary to me, and prior to us coming on live, I was sharing with Karen that I had left, you know, my job because I was watching. This year I was the art instructor, so I was teaching pre-K through 5th, and I was really watching a lot of these young ladies, and then I would watch their mothers come in and their parents come in, and I was seeing the same problem, but nobody was trying to fix it. And as somebody who was being affected by it, I was expected to just deal with it. And I've watched this over the years of me. I've been teaching in school since I was 23. I'm 39 right now. And I've watched this problem start with, you know, a couple to now every other parent, if not every 3 parents. It's a problem. And nobody is addressing it in a healthy way. Everybody has an opinion and they're speculating on it, but nobody has a solution. Nobody, and the solutions that you find are really ones to dress it up. You know, the tons, and I'm not speaking about anybody's organization, but we're dressing up the problem. We're making the women pretty on their exterior and helping them on their exterior, but nobody's doing anything about the rottenness that's getting worse on the inside.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking from a family full of women who I know are suffering with this today. Today, like it's a problem today, and I grew up with those women. So imagine the type of man that I am watching that growing up.
And it's partly because they don't know how to effectively do that. And then there is, you know, when you there's resistance, you know, because it's unfamiliar and it may be uncomfortable. And so what happens is that when you have to relearn something, you know, that's not always an easy process, especially when it's something that you're so used to doing. Right. You're so used to doing it, and it's to the point where it's become easy to do the thing that is breaking you down, as opposed to, you know, taking the time out and being patient with yourself and learning how to, okay, this is how I'm being aware This is how I'm taking care of myself. And and the way it looks is if I'm able to help myself, then I'm able to help those individuals in my life that see me as strong, because then I can reteach them how to help themselves by taking care of themselves.
But it feels like and that's all of our struggle too. But when you're in the thick of it, it feels like taking the time to learn those lessons takes you out of survival mode.
But that's where your support system comes. That's when that circle comes in of people women who you know have your back regardless. You know who your sister circle is. They might not be blood, but you know you got that one girlfriend who's like, no, go ahead, I got you. Go lay down, I got the baby. You know, when you go around your family, you got that one auntie that will come grab the baby out your arms and say, girl, go ahead, I got the baby. Go ahead. Go ahead, go be young. Go ahead, I got
those people who have not discovered those people yet.
That's why we're here. To let you know that there is an organization that is growing as we speak. Come out to an event, see what we're about, learn that there are women out there. I can only speak about my family, and that's why my family is at the core of it. To know that when I'm going through a hard time, look, we got you. I see that you're going through something. It's okay. It's okay. You go through that. We'll take care of this over here while you go through that. And when you're done, we're going to be here for that too. We're going to correct you when you're wrong, but we're going to chastise you in love. It's going to be okay. Not all of these ladies in the organization are my family. Not by blood anyway. You understand what I'm saying? And we're growing. When you find like-minded women who think the way that you think, but who can also say, that's not right. No, what you're saying is wrong. That's not the right way to do things. Or have you considered that there's another way to go about what you're doing? When people can speak to you in love, who can correct you in love, can show you other ways, who can expose you to things that you might not have otherwise been exposed to, it's tribe life. As far as I'm concerned, I learned that being around Bleu and some of his friends. I've been exposed to things that I might not have otherwise been exposed to and been corrected in love on the side, not in front of nobody. It ain't no big scene. You understand what I'm saying? Come here, let me talk to you for a minute. You get a quiet moment. I want to share this with you. I'm not passing judgment. I just want to put this in your ear, give you a little something to think about. I love you. It's done. What you choose to do with it is on you, but that's how family is supposed to go. That's how your sisters keep you and grow you. I got a friend who I've been friends with for 25 years. We don't talk every day. It ain't no kiki, let's brunch type relationship. But if I've offended her, if I feel like I've offended her, I'm grown enough to go to her and say, did I offend you in any way? And she can say, yeah, I felt some kind of way. You was tripping. Oh, okay. Okay. That's a check on me. Sisters can do that. That comes with maturity. But you only learn how to grow. You can only grow like that in safe spaces.
But
I'm trying to create safe space.
We have individuals in their 50s, 60s, and 70s that haven't grown to that space. And I'm asking you, what strategy or what is your plan to deal with those individuals who can't take that tap on the shoulder? They don't know how to receive that. They don't receive that as love. That is you, and there's a lot of trigger words. That's abuse. That's you harassing them. That's you disrespect. They see it as disrespect. It's not love to correct people anymore or to check people anymore.
Everything ain't for everybody, and you can't cast your pearls before swine. All I can do is invite you. All I can do is invite you. If you come out to the meetup and you feel like that's not your vibe, okay, be blessed, enjoy. But if you come around and you're attracted to the love that we have, by all means, join us. We're not going to force you. You can't force love on nobody. If it's a change that you seek, then you'll come along. It's just the knowledge that we are here. If you know what it is to want change, you know what it looks like when what you're looking for, when you find exactly what you're looking for, you know what that feels like. Right. We're here for that. If it's not something that you're ready for, we're not gonna force you. All you can do is eat the fish and leave the bones. That's it. I'm
definitely
dead.
Somebody's auntie.
I'm dead serious.
I am saying, honey, I love that. All you can do is eat the fish and leave the bones,
That's all you can do.
Mm.
You know when you're not vibing.
So what is interesting, so I invited you specifically today, one, to really support you and really help you get out the word, because the only thing that makes me cry is when I'm ready to fight, or when I see somebody doing something unselfishly for someone. That frog in your throat, it just watching that, just, and not even being able to take my mind off in the midst of you grieving, you were still able to give. And that showed me compassion on a whole different level, because you didn't know me that well or my friend that well to be that giving in that moment. That is what I like to see. That's the type of person that I am building myself to be, and I try to be as much as I can be in my life. But today, it was actually on the opposite side. So the issues that you are speaking about, it has to be addressed on the opposite side when we talk to men. Because again, whether you're talking about gay, straight, whatever, purple, gray, tall, skinny, one begots the other. And we're continuously raising generations of people with these same toxic ideologies and falsehoods of who they're supposed to be as individuals. And it's like the chicken or the egg. Which side do we fix first to help the other side? I really don't think you should have to choose, but I think organizations like yours is taking a stand. So I need to take a stand on my side and do what I can with the people that I can reach.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it's an ever-ending blaming cycle. So how do we break that cycle?
I think you do it the best way that you can. Like, one of the things that I'm noticing is that, you know how they say hurt people, but you can only speak what you know. And the analogy I use, I don't know, this is such an obscure movie, so I don't even know why I keep referencing it, but have you ever seen the movie Nell with Jodie Foster?
I've heard of it.
There's this movie called Nell. Please go watch it. In the movie, the main character is in this really like far out wooden cabin, I'm gonna say in the foothills of the Carolina mountains. Like, she's isolated, and she was isolated in the cabin with her mother, who suffered a stroke, right? So if you can imagine a deep woods mountain Carolinian accent, right, that is affected by a stroke, right? Imagine what that sounds like. So when this man discovers Nell, she's speaking English, but it don't sound like what everybody else speaks, because she's been taught how to speak by her mother, who has a deep accent affected by a stroke. So she's saying stuff like, skew in the belly, lilting ooze, lilting taws. Nobody knows what the hell she's saying, even though she's speaking English, because she learned it from a woman whose speech is affected. So I liken that to how our girls are raised to behave and to speak to men and to interact with one another. You have a generation of women who have been taught to speak and to behave by a generation of women who have been affected by disease, and I'm using it, loosely, and and damaged. They're damaged emotionally, they're damaged financially, they don't know how to cope, they're immature in their behavior and in their immature period in the way that they deal. And you've got a 14-year-old who had a baby, who had another baby at 14, who maybe had a baby at 12. You've got all of these immature babies, and the only way they know how to react and deal with people is out of their emotion. Nobody has corrected them.
And that's limited.
and limited in education. And they're raising children. You got generations of these children who are stunted in growth and maturity and education, and they're out here in the world pretending to be adults, interacting with the other sex. And then,
I was about to say, it's also, we have to be mindful of who's doing the measuring. What are we measuring that in comparison to? It's not our children that's going up into school shooting and killing people. True. Just because, in mass. We're not arming ourselves with AK-47s and 40s and things like that, and bombs, and building for a zombie apocalypse, but taking it out on elementary school children.
I don't know. But now here lately, Blue, you've got people going up in school with guns, and they look like us.
And the funny thing is, and again, who are we comparing ourselves? What are we learning from? The culture that we're learning and stuff that we brought on to ourselves, that we're taking on, is not inherently ours. And that's the illness in itself. Is that the old things that we were able to, that whole village, that they say that's an African tradition. That's an African behavior that is inherently Black. That we were the village mindset. You didn't have to go to your biological family to find family. Your family was anybody that was in that neighborhood or in that area with you. You could be fed. You could spend the night at their house. We don't have that amongst one another. And what you're doing is something that is kind of like you said. That is reminds you of how things used to be.
Yes.
You didn't have to rely only on yourself. You learned how to. I was taught. It was funny because I was cleaning greens, and I was cleaning greens with a man, a young guy who
did not know how to cook. Did you say you put my plate to the side? I was just
saying. Those greens are gone, because if you got good country southernness into you, then they're not gonna last long. But I was teaching him with fresh greens, and how to shuck them, take them off the stem and roll them up and cut them and wash them down.
They don't come out the can like that?
No. Baby, that's disrespectful if you talk about putting some canned greens into my house. Especially my greens taste like glory greens, honey. So, but no, I was telling him that, and he did not know how to do that. And I remember me growing up, my grandmother sat in the kitchen with her, and I watched at one point, and then before you knew it, I was helping out. Learning how to do these things. And we don't have that in this generation where people are willing to. One, it's because
grandma in the club.
Grandma in the club. And then things have been demonized so much that our trauma, we lead with our trauma. So when you see someone showing some compassion or wanting to take a young person under their wing, the first thing you think is that they're a pedophile and that they're trying to molest or do something wrong to your child.
But Bleu,
there's fear-mongering.
I'll say in my generation, we saw the ends of that happening. So we have recollection of it, but I had to, even me being a teacher, I had to realize because I teach elementary school, the parents of my students are not in my generation.
No,
most of them. And that messed my head up because I in my mind, I just thought, I remember my teachers being my mother's age, but something has happened differently, more so now. And a lot of these people don't have that ideal. Somebody in their family may know how to do those things from scratch and be community and be village. But the majority of them, that's my child. Don't touch my child.
But the funny thing about it, which you don't understand, was that was the therapy. When we were cooking, even though I was learning how to cook, it was the conversation that you got that little bit of wisdom. You started talking about your day. how things were going in your life, what your dreams were, what your fears were. But you were making a pot of beans and you were learning how to season the smoked meat so that the pot of beans, you didn't have to add all of that stuff, but you were doing it in a way where, and they were checking on you in a way where it was indirect. And the fact is like, it's like with these young people, and I absolutely agree with you, Nate, this generation don't have those individuals, but everything has been weaponized. You know, discipline has been weaponized. You don't have to beat the hell out of somebody in order for them to learn, because that's what discipline is actually about. It's actually about learning a lesson. So it may not be pleasant when you receive it, but at the same, it doesn't have to be a beating.
Not even a lesson. The idea of accountability is gone, and
That's
not just in our children, but in adults. So you feel like you can bully me and jump up at me and disrespect me or steal from me, and I'm supposed to keep my mouth closed. I can't snitch. I can't seek justice. I can't stand up for myself. And if I don't do those things, I'm considered weak. Like
I think
it's so confusing.
It's a lot because I think a lot of it started. It's so many overlapping things. It started with not being able to discipline your children, where if the child could call the police and claim child abuse. It started with the teen pregnancy thing, where I remember 12-year-olds were getting pregnant. Then you had, I remember at our age.
That's not new though.
But those things were used.
But that's a part of our culture to be that young.
But that's, hold on, but the funny thing is it was different. It was a different era. And what happened is that when they were having children young, that was an agricultural era. It made sense. You needed more hands on the field. You don't need that now. So it doesn't make sense. But to speak to that, even that shows that we don't have anyone passing on our history to make it make sense for young people, because then it makes sense. Okay, we had families that started off young because we needed that large family because we had to work for ourselves. So it wasn't, we couldn't go and hire 13 people to come till our land for us. We had to do that for ourselves. And so it made sense. It doesn't make sense now. And in terms of, you know, the way that the parenting, the way that the teaching is and everything, there is no foundation to any of this stuff. And so we have these individuals that we're producing in mass that are limited. They're unable to do the things that I'm looking at the young, this generation now, they have no real understanding of what it means to be emotionally mature. And they don't know how to, they don't know how to communicate with one another. And so when we try to, as adults, talk to them, instead of us talking to them in a way that encourages growth, it's a tear down. And so now it's a trust issue. And it's becoming a bigger, a huge valley between us, the adults, and the young individuals, because they have this mindset where as though we can do it on our own. Think of it, you said those 12-year-olds, there's a lot of parents that made their children have babies at 12 years of age as a form of punishment. So now you have a child that you don't even like. You have a baby that you don't even want, because this was our way of saying this is punishment. This is the lesson. This is the lesson. You want to be fast in your ass. And the reality is they weren't. Developmentally, they were where they were supposed to be. The hormones were developing. What was lacking was the information. There was no education. So you got these young people. We have a legal system that doesn't even align with the developmental system of the individuals that they are supposed to be protecting. So you got these 15-year-olds that want to be out here having sex because their body is developing and their hormones are developing. But what's not developing is their mind, where they are emotionally.
Not only that, but the community relationship with adults. Like you said, there is fear among relationships with adults, between adults and children. Like not every relationship is one that is inappropriate. Like sometimes you need that outside person to sit down and talk to the child just so that they can have the freedom to express themselves in a way that they may. That's why the after school programs were so important, because you had people who they could be accountable to, people who they could talk to, who could say, oh no, that might not be the best idea for you, who could guidance counselors, basically unofficial guidance counselors who could lead them in the right direction. Like we don't have that anymore for our kids.
Nope, they're taking stuff like that out of schools.
Yeah, but like what you were saying, Blue, when you cooking with your grandmother, there was more to it than just the cooking, more to it than just the conversation. You learn a lot about a person just by being in their space. You can get a sense for their mannerism. So if I spend enough time with you, Nate, after a while, I'm gonna know when you off, when you're not right, you're not quite yourself. You understand what I'm saying? These kids, I saw a clip of a child that was off her rocker in a classroom. I did not know what was wrong with that child. But the fact that that child flipped out when that teacher closed that door said more to me than the child ever had to open up her mouth and say. You understand what I'm saying? Something has to give. Something has to give where we need to be back in community with one another, back in relationship with one another.
But we don't know how to communicate with one another. So that makes it very difficult.
You know what? One of the simplest things that I witnessed, I was in a store and I make it a habit, when I approach people, whether they bagging my groceries or I see them, how are you today? It's as simple as, how is your day going? So many people are caught off guard by that simple question. How is your day going? Are you having a good day today? Whether it's the person in the restaurant, at the supermarket, opening my door, hey, how you doing today? People are so caught off guard, they will either pause before they answer or they won't answer at all. Hello, I remember when I was little walking down the street, my mother would be like, hey, how you doing? As we walk by, mommy, do you know that person? No, I'm just saying hello because it's nice to be nice. Go back to the grassroots of the thing. If you have communication with people, open that up so that you can recognize another person as a human being.
But many of us have had that figuratively or literally beat out of us. I was naturally that kid, but in my adult life, I'm not that person because circumstances or parents or family have said, you stop speaking to everybody.
Stranger danger.
And especially the ones of us that grew up in the 80s where it was people killing people, kids or snatching them. My mother, she never beat it out of me, but she made it a point. No, we're not gonna be that friendly with people.
Yeah.
But
we're not gonna do that.
And that goes to it's okay to, we don't, even with the niceness, how to effectively set boundaries.
Yes.
When is enough or too much? You get what I'm saying? Okay, you get with the difference between a good touch and a bad touch, and being okay with saying no, and being okay with receiving no. You get what I mean? Like we got boys that'll beat the hell out of a girl because the girl won't give him the girl won't give her his. You know, we got girls out here weaponizing the judicial system because a boy has found a new girl and he no longer is interested. So she's going to go there and she's going to say, he beat me or he tried to rape me because he didn't give me the right attention. It's
you know where I learn a lot of these life lessons, and it's the weirdest place. And I sometimes I'll just watch them on YouTube. These court shows. Because some of these judges, you can tell they've been through life. And I know some of it is smoke and mirrors for TV purposes, but some of the information that you hear, what Blue just said, one of the judges, it was a boyfriend and girlfriend, and the man basically said to her, so we can be friends, but anything else, I don't want it. And the girl, her response was, you really want me to get ugly in here? And the judge said, no. He's telling you he don't want to.
Right.
And he said it in 9 different ways, and you're not hearing him. So when the guy throw the bottle across the street at the girl for not stopping or not giving her enough, they're hearing disrespect. And I had to accept that. They're hearing you disrespected me because they've gotten a warped sense of entitlement, like they deserve you. You better give me your number. You better, do what I tell you to. Like that's what our children are being raised in. Friday when I walked out, it was due to a parent who felt that out of her class of 32 students, I supposed to have given all my attention to her. So she made it her business every single day, even if I didn't have her child that day, to make it seem like I did something to her child. Because in her mind, I'm gonna get you out this building. And then so for me, I was like, I forgot the stresses of being a teacher. And I made it a point to stay just so I could prove a point to her. And then Friday, it was just I can't do that no more. Because who hurt you enough you don't know if I got a family at home to feed? Take your child out to school. It would be so much easier if you did that. Versus trying to get this one teacher taken out to school.
But that's my point. And that's what I'm saying, is that because there are no agencies that are actually there to help in a way where it is nurturing. One thing about it that you said, Karen, that it requires, I always use this analogy when working with individuals. Relationships are like flowers, are like anything that you plant. Mm-hmm. It requires a certain amount of attention. It requires nurturing. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that's what's lacking in a lot, is that there is no nurturing. There's a lot of
giving up.
There is no trust.
But Bleu, the people who naturally do that, the Karens of the world, they have given up.
Or they've been demonized. They've been made to look like a bad person because their methodology isn't accepted by the mass.
Yeah. Oh, you strange. She's strange.
So you too compassionate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to do that. And we've gotten to the point where we are no longer regulating our own lives. We're not setting the standards for ourselves. Even as a professional, there is a professional me and there's a personal me. But my personal me will never be dictated by what I do professionally. One is what I do for money, to feed myself, but it does not dictate who I am as a human, who I am as a person. That is my foundation. And we don't use that. We don't have that. And that's the problem, is a lot of people don't even know what their foundation is, and it's not, I don't want you to be me. I don't want you, but I do want you to be able to commune with those individuals around you in a way where you're not doing any harm. And that when you see someone out and they need some assistance, you're here about providing somebody with some food, or leading them to some shelter, or giving them a helping hand. You're not sitting back with your phone watching somebody being robbed and the shit being kicked out of them. You have some humanity within yourself to say, no, stop that. Or, you know what I mean? No, don't do that. You see a kid walking down the street barefooted without no place to go, and their clothes is tattered. You don't just drive past them because you think that that's a crazy kid. You have some compassion and some humanity to say, what's wrong? Are you okay?
There's no compassion.
But we're at least 2 or going on 3 generations where that was talked out of us. That's something that you don't do.
No. I'm sorry. I have to disagree with you very, very strongly, because it doesn't take a whole lot for you to, not that you have to directly involve yourself, but how you were taught very early on about officer friendly. You were taught very early on how to ask for help. I had to go to the state building, the state office building the other day, and I got out of my car right there where the subway lets out for the state office building. I got out of my car and I was walking towards the state office building, and on the wall where people can sit, there's a homeless guy. I'm assuming he's homeless, sprawled out. The position he was in led me to think he was dead. Now I had enough distance between me and him, but I slowed down to make sure that his belly was rising and falling. All right. In my slowing down, I noticed that his pants was down around his thighs and he was exposed, if you know what I mean. Okay. So I wasn't going near that. But I also noticed that he had blood on his hands. So could he be injured? Could he be near death? I don't know. I know better than to walk up on them. I do know that. But what I also noticed that bothered me to a very great deal was that I'm right there by where the subway lets out. There are people walking by this man. There's a lady sitting on a bench with her back to this man on her phone. There are people having conversations. There are people ordering lunch.
Police officers.
It wasn't a police officer. I will say that. All these people are around this man. I don't know how long this man had been there, but he was there. I went inside and I had to ask the security guard, like, hey, there's a man out there and, you know, he looks to be in bad shape. Can you call somebody? Oh, I don't see him. He's right there. He's behind the food truck. Okay. He did call somebody. The police officer came by, sent him on his way. Great. He's alive. I'm happy with that. But the fact that that man laid out there, for as long as he laid out there, and people were just going on about that day like he wasn't even there. Like,
But again, Karen, we come from different generations where you would at least look into, even if you didn't do anything, you looked into it. These generate like the early 30s, 20s, they have been talked out of that because parents have said, and I'm not just blaming it on parents, but society has said, that's not your business. Mind your business, do what you're supposed to do. You know,
how do you walk by and know that maybe somebody could be dying or maybe somebody could be dead, and all you had to do was make an anonymous 911 call and keep it pushing and could have helped that man? How do you sleep with yourself at night knowing that
some people sleep so peacefully though? Some people sleep so peacefully.
There's a whole series on Netflix called Dharma, and it's there.
I saw it
in broad daylight. It was right there.
I'm the neighbor. I'm the neighbor.
But notice it was that one person. Everybody else may have questioned it, but she was the only one. And that person is actually two different people that lived in that community that one lady represents.
Yeah.
But everybody else, that ain't my business. Shit, he stink, but it ain't my thing.
And that's a common thing. And the thing about it is the distortion is minding your business is what you're supposed to do. That's the reality. That is the social norm. That is the acceptable behavior. And that's what's been promoted. The reality is that that in itself is the toxic behavior. That is the stuff that is tearing us apart. And the reality is that for a lot of, like you said, for a lot of females, I used to work with females. And me working with females, one thing, and it was actually really good that I was able to work with the females because I was able to hear what they were saying. You know, a lot of them wanted the teaching. They wanted the discipline. They wanted the structure. They just didn't know how to receive it. And the fact is that they were receiving that message, the anger, that aggression. That was what they were being taught.
Yeah.
That was what they were being, and so they were only manifesting and displaying that which they were taught. They didn't know any other way. They weren't provided with any other options, and I absolutely enjoyed it. But unfortunately, a lot of them were hurt, and their method of dealing with the world around them was from a hurt space.
Yeah.
So instead of you saying that I don't know how to love you, then I am going to swing on you. Or that I don't recognize this love. I've never had this before, so I don't know it to be medicinal. I don't know it to be healing. So my response to that is to fight. I don't see you as trying to help me because this doesn't look normal to me. What looks normal to me is if you call me a bitch. What looks normal to me is if I am objectified. You see me for my ass and my titties. You don't see anything else.
Right.
Even though I am artistic, even though I am intelligent, even though I'm articulate, you don't see any of those things. Those aren't the things that are valued. And so what happens is that even if, for me, when you are being compassionate or when you are being real, because I don't subscribe to keeping a child in a child's place. I subscribe to teaching a child how to live in the world around you.
Yeah.
So they have to survive. And so when I deal with my young people or adolescents, I'm not teaching you how to be a 13-year-old when I know that next year you're going to be 14. I'm teaching you how to think on a level of an adult, because guess what? You're going into an adult world. And you need to learn how to swim amongst the sharks. You need to learn how to swim the ocean.
If you want to join this conversation, definitely give us a call. The phone lines are open, 443-642-9403, because we got a lot to say.
Oh, definitely.
And I hear you, Karen, because these are the things that I say. I was raised literally across the hall from my bedroom was my great-grandmother's room. So a lot of what you say is in me. Like, I still rock and rub my knees because it's just in me.
Right.
But a lot of my friends didn't even have a great-grandparent that they knew.
Right.
Or there was still alive. So a lot of even the values that a grandparent would teach you. Because I had a youthful grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a lot of stuff that a lot of these students don't know. I used to call it a habit, but I address my students as Mr. and Ms.
And I do ma'am and sir. I'm a ma'am and sir.
They hate it. That's not my name. My name not Mr. My name not Miss. And in my mind, I didn't understand what was going on because that's how my teachers addressed me.
Right.
So I did a lot of the things that my elementary and my middle and my high school teachers did to me. That shaped my pedagogy.
Right.
But a lot of these people can't, like Bleu was saying, I don't think of myself as a bitch or a hoe or whatever, but because that's what I'm used to, I'm more comfortable hearing that than what's up, miss? How you doing today? What the fuck you want? And that's the response you get when you're being genuinely respectful. People don't know how to receive that anymore because they have not been used to that overall. And it's not for everybody, but a lot of it, it's hard to say, but they're not used to it.
But I refuse to let somebody else's dysfunction
change
how I live. I'll put it like
how you govern your life.
How I govern my life. So I choose to operate, and it's very, very difficult in today's time. I choose to operate from a place of love. And I think that is the reason why I think the way that I think. You know what I mean? So if I say something to you, hey, good morning, sir. How are you, sir? And you go, what the F you mean? Oh, it wasn't an insult. You know what I mean? I'm doing my, if they misread it, then I feel like we owe them an opportunity to understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Because, and the reason why I say this is because you can never unhear a thing. So if they never hear it again, at least they heard it one time from you. And again, all you can do is plant the seed. Maybe it'll grow, maybe it won't. But they can never unhear the thing. So if what the F you want? I don't want nothing. I just wanted to show you respect. That's it. That's all. Have a great day. That's it.
So let's touch on the opposite side of this conversation. So today's topic was actually a man's struggle.
Oh wow.
And it was polar opposite, but the same conversation actually.
Okay.
But one of the things that I kept seeing on TV, on podcasts, and just culture and in general amongst the people that I know, there's a meanness or anger rather towards Black men. Justifiably in many cases, a little off in other cases. There's a podcast that I feel compelled to watch. And this woman, she's a comedian. And I used to adore her as a comedian, but now I understand what's behind her jokes. It's her disposition towards men because of the men that she's had. She held her virginity until she was like 27, 28. And since then, men have shown their ass towards her in many cases.
Okay.
So the way she talks about men is disrespectful. Like it's disrespectful. Even if it's justifiable because most of her statements are generalized statements. Okay. It's not the men that I know, the men that I've come across, the men that my friends have, that I've seen. It's just men in general. And I find it hard, and we talked about this before, I find it hard and very uncomfortable to be in a classroom. I just talked to my principal at my old school, and she stopped me because of a parent-teacher meeting we had just had. And normally we had a meeting, she dismissed everybody, and I go back to my classroom, the parent leaves on, but she made me sit back. She said, Nick, what is the problem? I said, a lot of these women come into these buildings, and when they see me or when they see a male figure, they all of a sudden put on their sorry, Karen, their Karen face, and they become, the best parent, and I would never, and you cannot talk to my child in this way. And they become this different person simply because they're talking to a male. And I don't see my woman counterparts, teachers, being treated that way. Their discipline is seen as nurturing. Okay. Where mine is bullying or harassment. And we've been in this uncomfortable place for a number of years now. And I'm not going to simply blame it on Me Too, but we've been in that space. And that was like a explosion of it, but we've been in that space. And I am uncomfortable around women often because I don't know how to navigate that. Speak or act or react or nurture or give insight or wisdom to without being seen as Bill Cosby.
Well, and
I really don't.
I think that's a historical thing as well. I think that if you look at it in terms of how men are depicted, men aren't normally depicted as nurturing. In the realm of any of those professions that require nurturing, it's dominated by women, nursing, women. So when you see a male in a nursing field, the chances of him being seen as, creepy or, sexualizing is going to be heightened, because of the fact that he's a male, and this is a field where if he does something, he's going to be under different types of scrutiny. The same thing in the teaching profession. Yeah. The same thing in social work. To say any of those nurturing fields, it's going to be considered when you are under a different scrutiny because of the fact of your gender. And the fact is, women are given passes. I remember what stopped me from being a teacher was that primary fact that you couldn't do as a male. I couldn't interact with students the same way the female counterparts could because I was liable to be. It's easily construed. And so it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. And the fact is that I had to many times defend my position on how I was approaching things because it was easy for it to be villainized, And so I say that to say that it's taught me that I now lead with what my intentions are, so that it's not construed, that you don't sit back and say, well, the way that you're doing this or the way that you're doing, what's your intentions or whatever, because unfortunately men who are in nurturing fields, because there's not a lot of them, there's not a lot of representation, and when they're represented.
But what I said to my principal,
the method of our approach is usually through the lenses of females. Right. And so, or the men that are doing it don't necessarily, it's not a lot of representation, unfortunately.
But what I said to her, the recruitment process for a male teacher, the verbiage was simple. We need more men as teachers because a lot of these young people don't have positive male figures in their life. And same thing for nursing. Nursing, we need more male nurses. And typically they're hired so they can be the muscle. They need to help lift more of these people. So you bring men for not their intellect, for what they could bring strength to a situation. Or they can bring an absence to a situation. Go ahead.
I would think especially in a school environment, because, and this is just me speculating because I really don't have any, real knowledge of the situation, but I would think that in a school environment, by school now being like a second home environment, you got the female teachers who are very motherly and nurturing. You would think that they would want male teachers in to bring the structure. And this is anecdotal on my point, because I had when I was in school, we had Miss Gant and Mr. English. That was like our mother and our father. This is back when you could still get disciplined by your teachers. That's how old I am. But if you have the men who I respect in my life were not emotional men. Yeah, the women can come up with all that got, but the response that they would get in return is, "Are you done yet? Now that you're done, I'm going to speak." You know what I mean? There's a certain level of structure that you can have all that emotion. That's great. I understand your emotion, but here is what is going to be done. Period.
But you can't, in today's world, you can't, as a male teacher, and there are variations of what that means and the exceptions, but for the most part, you can't do that anymore as a male teacher.
You can't establish structure in your classroom?
Because structure equates to discipline. And apparent discipline is my job. That's not your job.
But see, that's because we have we've been misinformed of what discipline looks like and what it is.
They're defining discipline based off of their trauma, not off of what discipline really is, but based off of their trauma.
But here's the thing: when you send your child to school, you send your child to school, and you relinquish your control as a parent over to the teachers. No, I'm
telling you, that's not what they do.
Why not? Because if your child don't learn, you won't hold the teachers accountable.
Most of these parents are sending their children to school to be babysat.
Okay, well, when you send your child to the babysitter, you relinquish your control of the child over to the babysitter for the amount of time that you've allotted that child to be there.
Well, Miss Curran, Miss Gilmore, you are logically thinking. You have a lot of logic up there. Okay. You were expecting that same logic to now be birthed into a generation of people who are from a crack era.
But I don't think it's that. I think that it has nothing to do with the generation. It has everything to do with the society the generation is in. Because a lot of what they're being done, what you're seeing, is a product of the stuff that's been constructed. A lot of the ages, the reason why parents aren't disciplining their children is because of the social laws.
Yeah.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the generation. That has everything to do with the laws that was constructed to regulate these parents and tell them what they could and couldn't do.
With their children.
And with their children.
Yes.
Right. So then the thing is, if you don't, it's so crazy how you can see, if you take a step back and sit still sometimes, you're able to see things. And for me, it took me going through and being in the world to understand what institutionalized slavery looks like.
Yeah.
And the reality is that if I tell you that you can't discipline your child this way, and then because of your resistance and opposition, you say, "You raised my children. What have I created?"
Do you, Karen, and I know your child is of age now, but do you know how many types of therapists are in a building now with children? They have more therapeutic resources than they have academic ones.
I can imagine.
Or resources.
I can imagine.
So they have a licensed therapist, a social worker, emotional wellness individual. No guidance counselor, just an individual that's giving them verbiage, helping them, yes, but giving them verbiage to become aware of what abuse is. So if something happens between a teacher and a child,
they have something to weaponize.
Right, the teacher gets analyzed first.
Yeah.
Well, let's understand the behavior of this teacher, not what caused my behavior, which caused the behavior of the teacher or adult. But let's analyze this teacher first
Yeah.
and tell them how to deal with this child versus this child just slapped the shit out this teacher.
Yeah.
Nobody does anything to get slapped.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
But see, the thing is that in the real world, and this is why I moved the way that I moved, and it's unconventional. It's not traditional. It doesn't. Many people would think that I'm absolutely. I teach from a real perspective. I'm a realist.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is that the world that you live in isn't the world that's in your head. It's the world that you actually live in. And you can't go about doing things in this world and think that people are going to accept your behavior. One, people don't see your emotional or psychological scars. They're not going to give two fucks about that. What they're going to see is an adult, and they're going to respond to what they see. So if you're out there and you're acting out because you've been allowed to act out, chances are situations where you have police officers just pulling their guns on you and shooting you because they feel threatened is going to happen. You're setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
And so the reality is that those are the types of conversations that need to happen more often.
Yes.
Because we're not living in a world that is in our head. That idea of a perfect world, we're not in the perfect world. And the reality is that we're setting these young people up for failure.
But let me ask you a question. Based on what you just said, Blue, and with what Nate just said, do you feel like, and I know I'm pushing a button here because
it needs to be said then. That means it needs to be said.
Because of who inspired this question. Do you feel like these programs that are in place and set up to promote a victim mentality among our people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And that went along with what Blue was saying earlier. A lot of these systems and structures are no longer working for us because they become crutches. They become crutches. And I've been saying this for years now. A lot of these therapists so at one point, the child, they were having struggles, they would be sent to an outside source. This person now can come to their classroom and take them out at will. That's a part of their 504 plan. That's a part of their IEP. That's a part of the structure. And also, if your insurance lapse, that person stops seeing your child.
So now your kid
in the school building.
So you SOL as a teacher, you have no help, even though that person wasn't there for you to begin with.
It is if I send this child to the office, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna talk to them, put them back on course, and send them right back.
So the child does not learn a coping mechanism or coping skills with how to deal with
accountability,
conflict, right?
But it's not their
conflict resolution.
It's not.
It's because guess what? Those skills that you're naming are those skills the parents lack.
Right.
Because and the reality and it's sad because you sit back and you think of the situation. You say he's again, like I said earlier, many of the social agencies that was created are detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because the individuals that are at the helms of these agencies or employed, they're coming from a very judgmental perspective.
Yeah.
And what they're measuring you off of is how they would approach situations or how they might handle the situation. How do you have a white woman, a white man who lives in a rural part of Baltimore City tell you about the impact of Baltimore City if they don't even live amongst the people that they serve?
Or
they don't even travel in the neighborhoods amongst the people they serve. I don't care if people have a problem with what I'm saying. It's a fact.
Yeah.
How do you have someone tell you how to engage in a community when you aren't even a part of that community?
Never
You can't tell me that you know what it's like to travel almost 20 blocks to find a supermarket, and so you don't get fresh food. You don't understand that. So when you cut off their food stamps,
right,
and they don't have a means of getting food, that's the reason why they want to bust you upside your damn head and take your damn wallet.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you,
they treating the symptom and not trying to get to the root cause.
And never thought, I thought I would leave the school system because my artist life took off. I never thought I would leave the school system because I was fed up. I never thought I would leave because I didn't feel safe and I didn't feel protected.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan. My savings don't look nothing like it should.
Right.
I got to think about health insurance and all those things now. But you have teachers leaving, specifically in this topic, you have them leaving because they don't feel respected. They don't feel heard. They feel like, yes, the point of us being here is for these children. But guess who's also in this building with them for the same amount of time as this child is here?
Yeah.
And you have teachers being beat up and bullied. I have a friend that has really permanently lost this part of her finger.
Wow.
Because the child saw her hand in the door and purposely slammed the door on her hand.
Wow.
So she's disfigured now permanently.
Nothing happened to the child.
No, the child was put right back into the classroom. My friend was out for an extended period of time, and they put that little girl back in that classroom.
In the same class.
The same class.
How does that make sense?
And I know we're kind of filtering this through the school system, but overall, this conversation is about our inability to be able to communicate effectively, our inability to be able to have accountability, and really understand where our mental health is and what options we have, and then taking the step towards those options. I know that's not always easy. I'm sure Bleu can attest to that, but something has to happen. So I'm saying, I know a lot of the purpose of your organization, Karen, but I am saying do not put it in the school system.
Oh, no. My goal, one of my long-term goals, I'm not even going to put a limit on it because I feel like the way things have been happening, I'm just going to put it out there. I want to create a community school. I want a community school to be birthed out of this organization. I want a community school.
Believe it or not, the one thing that I truly, if I had $1 million, I wanted to create a boarding school for young people to remove them from the environment of the city. And to provide them with that kind of campus life where they're able to socially develop and emotionally develop under the guidance of individuals that are skilled to provide them with the educational and emotional support that they could actually, grow. I think that one of the things is that a lot of times the visions of individuals that it makes sense. They mean well. The execution is a little bit off, and a lot of that guide them is off. What they want is the money, and especially with a lot of these social agencies, the nonprofit agencies, because the government is providing them with a lot of funds. And what happens is that they go to pockets, and they're not actually going to the community individuals that they're supposed to be helping. Also, the advocacy for some of these social agencies aren't there. You got doctors, you got big pharma. When it comes to government, you could go to any Congress place or any space, and you're going to find a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer. They're represented in terms of, for a lot of the social aid. There's not a lot of representation. If the representation is there, it is from individuals that have no clue about the populations that they're working with. And so then it becomes, I want to help the poor Black people by instilling the Mormons' virtues on those poor people that live on Greenmount Avenue. Because if they all think like Catholics, they would be wonderful people. Well, that is so far from the damn truth. Or on the flip side, I think if they had Jesus in their lives, then they would be wonderful. No, that is not what. No, sorry, no, and no, thanks, because it's not helpful.
And it's just these theories of how to get these people back together. That's why, and I said that to you, not to say you can't address those educational issues with these parents, but it needs to be at home, in home environments. Because I felt like Friday when I packed my shit up, and walked out that building, never to return to it. I felt that I had did all I could do, because I can give you everything, but if it's not being reciprocated at home, or if it's not being doubled down on at home, I gotta keep doing that every time I see you.
It's like trying to potty train a child that's in daycare.
Yeah.
The daycare provider is potty training the child, but if the parent is not still running the play, it's not gonna happen.
and I think something as simple as that. Even when I was sitting talking to the principal, I said, you are hiring people like me to bring a balance. Like on all my evaluations, strong classroom management. You haven't even been able to see what I know, because you know I'm good at being stern. And you like that, because that means less visits to your office. But you don't understand the pile up of stress. It was me and it was only 3 Black males in that school. I was the art teacher, we had the gym teacher, and then we had the new 4th grade teacher. And it felt like the 2 of them kept trying to save me. Like helping, jumping, because they had been there longer and they understood what that felt like. And I was doing everything I could, and I've always done that. But it just felt like the women were just like, we're just waiting for this to work. Because if you don't have good classroom management, next, but they can't say next now.
Right.
Because typically somebody that was having issues with parents and students, they would fire them. But because they need you, they will give you pep talks. But that's it. And just the communication that we have with each other, just in general in life, I think is so off, because the expectations on both sides aren't being communicated, are being expected without communication. And then we're left with, well, you should have known. Or, you want me to make the world better, but you give me all these restrictions. It's like telling me, I need you to walk across that street and pick that thing up and bring it back. But you can't walk, you can't run, you can't crawl, nobody can carry you. So how the hell you expect for me to get over there?
Use your mind.
Use my mind.
Get a lasso.
Think about it, and it's gonna happen. And that's what they leave you with. And then go ahead.
Go ahead, Bleu.
No, you can.
I was just saying that just seems like a really frustrating way to be, but I don't know. I'm a hopeless optimistic. And
I love it though. I love it. I was there like 10 years ago.
We can only eat the elephant one bite at a time, and this is just my contribution to taking that elephant down.
But you have a way of doing it that, well, the rhetoric that's going around the school is students or people in general can't learn from people they don't like, and I have the biggest problem with that. That's what they're
not liking you have to do with anything.
With educating you. That's what's in my contract. To be able to teach the standards that they have come up with, not for us to become best friends.
That's not what
and
the
I know what it feels like
pushing,
to have a teacher that you like, and how fast you were running into that classroom every day. Oh. But you're teaching children bad habits to go into adulthood with.
Wait, but is that really what the administration is saying? That
yes, that's when I tell you, when we have our professional development, it's this teacher of the year that has been teaching for 30 years, and now she's been teacher of the year umpteen million times, and all these accolades. And our principal plays a clip from one of her, she had a TED Talk, and that was one of the last things that she had, and that's what she's been quoted from for years. A student cannot learn from a person they don't like. And I get that, but that's not something you should be telling a child.
But that's not something you should be telling an educator. In real life, you're going to encounter in the workplace. You are going to have to work side by side. Your supervisor, you may not like your supervisor, or your supervisor may pair you up with someone who has to train you for your job. And that person might not be somebody you might want to go to happy hour with. That is not preparing students for life at all.
So unrealistic. And
But
that's my
I'm
point.
telling you,
that's my point.
That's being shared.
But that's my point. And the reality is that, in order for me to effectively work with, to be effective in school, I have to be taught by somebody that I actually like. That doesn't make any logical sense. It's not even logical. Now, what it means is you may be more receptive of information from someone you like. But again, it is, what do you need? You're there is understanding the intentions. My intention isn't for you to like me. My intention is to educate you so that you can have the skills, so you don't have to depend on me. And you don't have to worry about liking me because you actually know how to do it for yourself. But that's where I just have a problem with that rhetoric right there.
I do too, because where does the respect come in?
Both of you are in human service, fields, but you're dealing with the adult versions of what I am dealing with, the child version. Now you understand why some of them come to you in that way. Because this has been something that's been being said for a number of years now. It's not something new from COVID. This is something that's been said for a number of years. That's why teachers will often get fired. And you be like, well, damn, they just started working there. They would get fired because I couldn't make my classroom like me enough to behave for me to be able to effectively do my job.
Now, I will say, I'm playing devil's advocate. You actually have to actually like the population that you're working with. You know what I'm saying? You have to genuinely want to have a concern for the population that you're working with. I think what happens is that what people don't really understand or don't even give any is that you can go in, and this is me, I enjoy what I do. I don't like a lot of the administration and the bureaucracy. I don't like the bullshit. And so if I have to, so my thing is that I like what's on, if I have to swim through the shit to get through to the fruit on the shore, chances are I'm not going to want to swim through the shit. And that's what many of these professionals are doing. Educators have to swim through the bureaucratic shit in order to really do and to be effective in their job.
I'll say this, and it may be some exceptions, but the educational field is one of very few professions that you go into for the money or the applause. You know what you're getting yourself into. You know what you're getting yourself into. You believe that you can make a change in it, but it's one of the very few professions that you know what you're getting yourself into, and you have to start off with passion. I've never met a teacher who you be like, this ain't, and you think that it's not for them because they can't control the environment. Well, that's why I didn't come there for that.
But see, the thing about it is that a lot of times, again, when you're going to these fields, for instance, you can't go into the criminal justice field and not meet a criminal.
Right.
So, and if you got,
but we know COs.
So for me, and my profession, I have to work with all people. So that may be a sex offender, that may be a murderer, but I have to treat the sex offender the same way that I would treat someone who likes to plant daisies and bake cakes and help the homeless. I have to treat them like they're a human. Yeah. I can't, because you're a sex offender and you did this thing, that you this type of person, because they have a backstory too. But the reality is that that's what a lot of times when we are in these professions, they're not preparing you for the reality of what you're going to have to endure. When you're in classrooms, it's not like when we were children and we all sat in rows and the teacher would say, hello, class. And then the class was like, hey, Miss. No. I'm tired of this shit. because the society that we live in has created this climate, and you have to unfortunately deal with the product of that climate. When they come to your classroom, they're not coming to your classroom with the support, and you don't get that. You have to really teach from the ground up.
It almost seems like y'all need to it almost seems like in today's educational climate, they need to, in the orientation with the parent and the student, it needs to be like the Joe Clark school of, this is what it's about to be. As long as your child is in the school, this is what it is. And if you don't think that's what you're going to like, get up and leave now. Like, that's what it sounds like might have to go for. What
will happen if that was to happen, you're going to have the parent that be like, look, get your shit together because I ain't got no other school to send you to. And then you're going to have parents that be like, man, fuck this. And they going to leave.
That's
but
fine.
At the same time,
it's okay to have
for that to happen, we have to understand first accountability and understand why people need it.
Who are you holding accountable?
This is going to happen.
And that's the big question. Who are you holding accountable? Because we could sit back and say, let's hold the parents accountable for the children's behavior. But do you have to look at how did the parents become the parents that they are?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes up bigger. And now it's okay, wait a minute. The reason why this kid isn't getting the discipline, or you're not getting the support, is because the agency that's governing them, whatever that may be, is saying, well, look, don't do that. So when we say we need to hold the people accountable, who are we saying we're going to hold accountable?
Right.
I've looked at some rules and stuff like that. There are a lot of innocent people that are locked up now.
For lack of accountability.
We looked at a whole television series where the police were able to do what the hell they wanted to do. No accountability. And guess what? As a result of that, 14 people were murdered.
Yeah.
And none of them lives can come back.
Right.
And had someone been responsible, or had somebody been held to some accountability, there would not be that. So who are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the question.
That being said, this is the artist exchange at Be Exposed Radio. This was my co-host, Nate Couser, and our wonderful guest, Karen Gilmore. And I am your host, Blue Waters. Come join us again next week. Same place, same time, Be Exposed Radio. This is the Artist Exchange. Have a wonderful day.
Reach out to the Auntie Skills at agbest2021@gmail.com.
And we'll share the flyer for the event.
Okay.
Say it again.
Oh. Reach out to the Auntie's Guild email. It's agbest2021@gmail.com.
And we'll post that on, I'll post that on our social media. Thank you all. Bleu is psychotic, and he's a little crazy. He's one of the children that we were talking about.
Don't do that.
So this is the manifestation of that.
Yes.
Still trying to get on it. He's just your test study right here.
Yes.
Peace out, people.
Give me my lead chip money.
Same time, same place.
I had a lot of Frosted Flakes that was seasoned with lead. I need my money.
See y'all people later. Just pray for him. Pray for him. Just pray for him, please.
Don't do that, y'all.
Good talk.
This is a good show. It's really real. I mean,
Thank you.
Y'all make me feel like in my old age that I'm so naive, but I still have hope in me. And the resilience.
I don't think you're naive. I think
Thank you.